Good evening, sister. You're welcome to this interview. Sister, please, can you tell us? Sister, please, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Good evening, sister, and thanks for welcoming me. I am Christiana Biyab, a sister of St. Louis. I joined the sisters in 1986. I have been since my profession. I think immediately after my first profession, I was sent to Kano and lived and worked among the rural people in the village for 3 years before I went to school. I had worked in the city for 3 years before I went to the rural areas, actually. I've also worked in Okioka in Ondo State. I worked in Owo. I worked in Bida in Niger State. I presently work in the secondary school. St. Louis Secondary School, Kano, is an all-girls school, which was established in 1951, to be precise, on the 18th. So the school was 70 this year, 18th of January. We're still planning for a big celebration, which we couldn't have due to the coronavirus, as at the time the school clocked 70. With the takeover of schools in 1970 with BAP's Falconwa's policy, St. Louis Secondary School Kano has since then been operating with 80% admission Kano State indigenes and 20% non-indigenes. So that means that 80% of those admitted since 1970 have been Muslim girls, and a few of them Christian girls. In order to cut down this large number of the Muslim girls, or add to the large number of the Muslim girls, the church itself launched a rural education, since some of the Hausa villagers have began accepting the faith due to the activities of the SMA fathers who lived and worked in the rural areas. Father Michael Waters, to be precise, and Sean Hayes, who began this project. So some of the girls from the rural areas were brought in into the secondary school. So they form part of the 80% of the Kano State indigenes, even though as far back as then their numbers were few, until recently when they are beginning to see the importance of education, and the numbers is getting too large for the school to manage, because many of them come in and are not able to pay the fees. At the moment, I have about 52 of them in the school. With that policy of 80% indigent, the state government was supposed to give about 25 to 30% of the running costs of the school. But for the past 30 years, the state government has not been fulfilling its part of that policy. So in the last 3 years, we have started cutting down on that policy, because that policy also has an implication that you have to admit 80% of indigenes whether they pass the exam or not. And that has drastically affected the quality or standard of education. So in the last 3 years, we've insisted that it is those who pass the exams that are admitted into the system. So at the moment, we have at the junior level a good number of non-indigens in the school who are admitted on merit.
Okay. All right, sister. Thank you very much, sister, for giving us that brief history of St. Louis Secondary School, Kano. Sister, in this interview, you basically be telling us about interreligious dialogue in Nigeria, interreligious relationships and dialogue in Nigeria. What can you say about that, sister?
Interreligious dialogue, it come out from the church's policy on ecumenism, a wing of the ecumenism. And it is a worldwide Catholic Church program operating in different places differently. I must tell you that in this country is more of an Abuja-based program where the headquarters of the country is. How much of it is working at the grassroots? I will doubt how many people know about it and how many people are participating in it. But as we speak now, I know that there is a Kuka Foundation that has program for young people. And sometimes being the way we operate, it is when there are clashes as they are now, that a few young people will be kind of drafted into some kind of workshops, and then they are sent back. What they go back and they do in their different states is not very loud. And so we can't say this is exactly what they are doing. I also know that there is a foundation that seems to be sponsored by Qatar. A few people fill in the form and they attend classes, and it is an international program. So those who have signed in for it sometimes have to travel to other countries of the world to see how religion is practiced, how people of different faith live together. For us here, I will say that it is a language of the office in high places. Its practicality at the grassroots, you only see it happening when things begin to happen as they are happening now, with the killings and persecution that is going on in different states like Kaduna, Plateau, Benue, and Niger State. So it's not something that is well pronounced. It's not something that is everywhere. It's not something that the government is working towards.
Okay. Okay, sister. Thank you, sister. Sister, in St. Louis, or where you are now, St. Louis, Kano, how do you put that? How do you practice it? How do you try to see what to do about it in the school there?
Before I answer your question, let me take a step back to what I said to you earlier on, that I've lived in Kano before. And I must tell you that the Kano I lived in years back and this Kano religiously are two different places. In the past, you don't feel these religious differences. You find people living together and working together side by side, and you don't get to know who is a Muslim or who is a Christian. But now that division is very, very pronounced. And so coming into St. Louis Secondary School, Kano, I think my first shock was to get to know that the VP admin, which is normally a ministry staff, sees herself or operates as the principal for the Muslim students in the school, while the principal herself is a figurehead principal for the entire school, and then specifically because majority of the teachers are employed by the church, then they're seen as mission staff and the few Christian girls in the compound. So it has been, and it is also a very sensitive topic in Kano. It's something that both the government and the culture can take you up on, and all they simply need to say is that you are against the culture and religion of Kano State, and you will be tapped. So it's what I tried to do was to work with the PTA chairman, Professor Abdullahi, who was the PTA chairman then, because I discovered that the Muslim girls pay a mosque levy, and it was the VP admin, this ministry staff, that run that account. And she takes the money that comes in from that, repairs that need to be done in the mosque, she does that. SS3 girls are graduating. They are planning a project for the school to leave something behind. She's also planning a project for the mosque, and the girls need to pay for it. So I took that up with him that for me, it was like the mosque is a school within St. Louis Secondary School, and the Muslim girls are being run as an entity that are answerable to the VP admin. So it wasn't an easy route to tread, but we said what needed to be said as gently as we could. It didn't go down well, but luckily this year something happened. The ministry itself withdrew its staff. Okay, that former VP was changed, and then a new one came. So when that new one came, I had the opportunity to draw out her role and responsibility in the compound, and then specifically telling her that first and foremost, the students are St. Louis students, and their parents sent them here, first of all, to come to St. Louis and to read, and we'll give them opportunity to practice their faith, because St. Louis is a faith-based school. But it doesn't matter. Okay, when they are going to pray, the Christians go to the church, the Muslim girls go to the mosque. But by and large, they are St. Louis students, and I want to keep them together as St. Louis students. So, but you see, she would also, the former vice would have had to hand over to her, which was another thing altogether. I see the ministry coming in and going straight into the VP's office, and they do hand over there, and then they now come back to me, the principal's office, and say, sign document. I told them I'm not going to sign any document. If I have to sign a document, then that handover needs to take place in my presence. And I need to go over the documents you have written so that I will know what it is before I sign. So I think from that moment, they knew that things were not going to continue the way they have been in the past. And so back to what I was saying, that some of the ministry staff were withdrawn this year. So which means that we have no ministry staff in the compound specifically with responsibility for Muslim students. So I tell you, since that happened, I can see a one St. Louis Secondary School with one set of students, and if it is time for prayer, the Muslim girls go to the mosque, the Christian girls go to the church, and then I am seen as the principal for all, and they come to me, the Muslim girls come to me. There are maintenance work to be done in the mosque, they have to come to me. The Malam who handles them has to come to me. So, like for me and for even some of the students and their parents, they think it is better that things are done this way because they have come to see that some of the levies that the VP's office used to ask them to pay, that they are not paying anymore because we now use the mosque levy with the students' pay to carry out maintenance work, to pay the malams that work there and things like that. So for me, things are at its best at the moment. We are beginning to see the Sint Unum, which is the motto of the school, amongst the students. And we are happy, staff and management are happy with the turnout of things.
And the students too are happy?
The students are happy, and very importantly, their parents are happy. The new PTA chairperson came into the office last week to thank me that the parents called and they were saying they are very grateful that their girls are doing Quranic graduation and they are not being asked to pay any extra money, that they didn't understand things before. They are happy the way things are being done now. So I think they now know that we are not necessarily against them. We will encourage them to practice their faith to its best. But by and large, they are students of St. Louis, and Saint Unum is our motto, and we want to see that live.
Thank you very much, sister. If we come out of the St. Louis Secondary School now, what about the environs? What about the state itself? How do you see interreligious faith, interreligious dialogue or relationship? How is it going on there?
The vicar, the present vicar of the diocese has responsibility for that text of interreligious dialogue. I don't know how often they go for meeting. I don't know what they talked about. But I know I was in the nursery and primary school, St. Louis Nursery and Primary School before I came here. And because of the location of that school, that is bordered by abundant government schools, we had a lot of drug addicts that were using the abundant government schools as their shelter. I had to reach out to them and then discover that some of them were women, and living within that kind of environment meant that they were not just into drugs, they were into all sorts of crimes. So it was at that moment that together I had to partner with him closely, because picking up those ladies first out of that environment, we needed to get a place for them where they could be helped to walk out of their drug habits. And then we needed to locate their families and put them back into their family situation and see if we could get sponsors who will help us to train them into some kind of skills that they will become self-reliant. So at that moment, himself and myself, we found ourselves going to meet the emir constantly because through the emir, then we were able to reach their families. Through the emir, then we were accepted. And then now and again, you find some of their clerics that are appreciative of what you are doing. And but generally, Kano is a very sensitive place when you're talking about religion. And it is a place you need to be very careful what you say and how you say it, and to whom you say it. because a person could just go, all that anybody, any of them need to say is to just say, XY person made this pronouncement about the religion, and that is all. It can spark fire.
Okay, okay, sister. Thank you very much for that enlightenment. Sorry to ask you this question. Sister, were you trained for this work? Did you have any study on interreligious dialogue and relationship?
I did a few of some online training with this. There's an interreligious group begun by a Jewish rabbi in the USA. I did that training online.
Okay. Okay. Okay, sister.
But also I've done religious. I did theology. So I've done religion, and I'm part of the theological course of religion in the College of Education, which I did, was to be exposed to other faiths. So I have been exposed to, as at the NC level, I've been exposed to Islam, I've been exposed to Hinduism, I've been exposed to other faiths apart from Christianity, which I practice myself, and which theology was basically supposed to be. We had opportunity to listen to other faith leaders of other faiths, enlightening us about their religion. So I did Hinduism, Confucianism, Islam, Judaism, and all of those things. So,
wow. Thank you very much, sister. Now, sister, let's come back to the students in St. Louis, Kano. How is the relationship between the students themselves, the Muslim students and the Christian students?
Interesting. I will tell you that, children are children. And to a very large extent, children are always innocent until we adults begins to put things into their head. And in the nursery school, we couldn't pray the Angelus, even though the nursery school is supposed to be a private institution. We couldn't pray the Angelus there because of the large number of the Muslim students there. So sisters who were there before I got there had taught them this peace prayer, that it is prayed by 12 noon in place of Angelus. And as young as children would be in nursery and primary one, they will tell you their parents told them that it is prayer for infidels. They shouldn't say the prayer. So you have to take your time to we are praying here for peace. Is peace a bad thing to ask for? Before the child gets to know that, okay, there's nothing wrong with this. While I was in the nursery school, a parent came in and threatened to report the school to the ministry. And why? The child was just 3 years old, starting school. The class teacher is teaching the children that they must pray before eating. And of course, being a Christian, the only prayer she knows to teach them is Christian prayer. And he walked into the school this day in the morning, very furious. I didn't bring my child here to be converted. I didn't bring my child here to be converted. I've just realized that the only prayer my child knows how to pray is a Christian prayer. And I laughed. I said to him, that means that as a father and the mother that is not here, you are not doing your work. Because if you are doing your work, that should have been the first prayer the child would have learned before coming to me. So if you're not doing your work and the teacher is doing her work here, then I will not blame the teacher for doing her work properly. You know, but for him, he was going to the ministry, he's going to report to the school, and blah, 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 blah. So I said, go. Actually, I've been looking forward to seeing the commissioner. So maybe this will be an opportunity for me to see the commissioner. When he noticed that I wasn't taking him serious, he mellowed down. And then I said, if you have passed through school, you will know that this child is at a stage of copying the most important person to her in her life. But that time will come that she would have outgrown that, and that this will not be a problem, including the prayer. And that is what happens. So even here in the secondary school, sister, you know, like the children are seriously being influenced by their parents, especially their mothers. And most times when you take them on their own and move them out of a scenario, then they will tell you, sister, I'm sorry, I didn't understand it. But they would have begun by reacting. Now, let me give you an example. We went for Salah break. And coming back from Salah break, they had painted their nails with lily. And the school rules said they must not paint their nails. So when they came back, I sent them back home. That they should go home until it is clean before they come back to school. You know, immediately, the canon man will react immediately that you are against his religion. And that was exactly what happened. If the putting of lele is Islamic in nature, if you're saying the girls shouldn't put lele, then you are against the religion. But another thing I have learned to do is to become close to some of their clerics. So when such things come like that, I just pick the phone, called one of the sheikh, and I said, I have an issue here this morning. And I just told him some of the girls came back with lele, and I'm being told it is Islamic. He said to me, sister, wait there, I'm coming immediately. And I will tell them lele has nothing to do with Islam. And so most time it is these people, you find a few of them that are very enlightened, that are able to know exactly what the religion calls for, apart from these layers of other things that others are adding to it and not knowing. So most times it is this kind of people I call to come to the scene and to help out the situation. So for the girls, they will come back. Sometimes they will come back and they will tell you, my mother said this, my father said this. Let me tell you, majority of the old girls are Kano State indigenous. To get these old girls to come back and give something back to the school is a problem. And the simple reason is that it's Makaranta Arna. If they give you money, you will use it to propagate the gospel. Mm-hmm. So why should you contribute to the system? You know, so the first meeting I had with the old girls was to sit them down, and they said it to my face that they thought that the church was being built from the leftover of money that is coming from St. Louis Secondary School, Kano, and the secretariat that is inside the compound. So I had to say to one of them, I said, well, I'm inviting you to come into the compound on Sunday. So 3 of them came. And it happened that day, the church was doing fundraising for the church's hall. And they were the one who went back and told the others, we have it wrong. That's not what is happening. So that was what led to their donation in April, for the first time in the history of the school. Wow. In April this year, the old girls were the one who contributed lab equipment to the physics, chemistry, biology, and home economics lab after the physics, chemistry, and biology lab were renovated. And that would be their first contribution to the system. Apart from particular sets, you know, the older sets were actually mostly Christians. The early sets of the school were mostly Christians, because in those days, the Kano Hausa person didn't see girl child education as important. So most of them were coming from Port Harcourt, Lagos, Ibadan, and places like that. So the 1969 set that bought us 20 computers are basically non-indigenous and other contributions in the past. So, like I said earlier, that this, with the absence of the ministry staff in the compound, we are beginning to get the attention of our Muslim girls. They are beginning to understand that we have nothing against them and that they too are part of the school. And that we treat all of them, Muslim, Christians, or whatever faith background they belong to, as one St. Louis student. And their imam recently had to call them into meeting. And he said to them, he said, things have never been as good as it is with us now. That you girls are not being asked to contribute for anything, and things are happening inside the mosque, making it comfortable for you for worship. So, but I don't know how long this absence of the ministry staff will be. And because recently the state House of Reps was asking that the Ministry of Education send back the people they withdrew to St. Louis, St. Thomas, Rochas or Korochas, because there are 4 schools in Canada that are called voluntary agency schools, that they should send back such staff back to the schools. But they haven't come yet, so we are making the most out of the time we have.
Well done, sister. I must confess, or I must say that you are doing a great job. And well done. But you know, this sister, I understand that now they are responding more than they did, if they ever did. But now, sister, what can you term as your challenges now?
I said living and working in Kano is not like living and working in any of our other institutions in the province. And I've just come to realize that given the religious sensitivity, it is not just everybody that can be sent to work in Kano. It has to be someone who understands the culture and appreciate the culture. It has to be someone who is able to understand the difference between what the people are adding to what the religion is, and what is culture and what is religion. My challenges is not running St. Louis Secondary School as an institution. Because as I told the secretary to the private and voluntary agency last week, I said, what drains energy is trying to explain to ministry officials that our intentions are pure and that we do not mean harm to anybody, regardless of their faith. And that to us, it does not make any difference whether a child is a Muslim or a Christian, but that that child has passed St. Louis and that the child is in St. Louis Secondary School. So that they will understand that the activities we carry out are not carried out based on, on any discriminatory basis. We don't do anything based on any of that. 2 years ago, we have to raise up the cutoff point because the cutoff point used to be 40. So the ministry can wake up 1 year and tell you, okay, if it is 40 and people are scoring 25, take them like that, promote them like that. So we had to insist that no, these girls are going to compete with the rest of other children in Nigeria who are going to school that 40 is not even a pass mark for them. So we need to do things in such a way that if they leave this scenario, they are able to fit into any society comfortably and not look back at this. And the letter I got was that I raised up the cutoff point from 40 to 65 because I want to kick out the Muslim girls out of the school. So, and then you need a few parents who actually appreciate those who have lived outside Kano, that appreciate your motives behind what you have done, and they will now be the one to say, sister, leave it for us. We will take it up with the ministry. So my greatest challenge is the Ministry of Education in Kano. Recently, one of the directors said to me that what is the gain of working in the ministry if they can't get their children into St. Louis Secondary School? So whether their children pass exam or not, because their parents work in the ministry, they expect you to give them admission. They expect you to keep them in the school. So these are my challenges. And then I think very obviously the school is old, the structures are old, and they are seriously beckoning for attention. But we can't even increase school fees unless ministry give us the permission to do so. So this is where we are. And then the relationship that the school had with the ministry in the past was like making the ministry feel that they are a major decision-making body in the school. And we are telling them now that no, you play your role at ministry, give directives for all schools, not just St. Louis Secondary School Kano. And it is that directive that St. Louis Secondary School Kano will follow. So they are not finding it easy with us. They are putting up all the defenses. And recently the bishop said, sister, when they called you to that ministry, don't go anymore. Let the lawyers take it up. And so that's the way it is. They send a letter to us, the lawyer go to answer them. They call to say, we want to see you, the lawyer go to answer them. So that's where we are at the moment.
Well done, sister. Thank you very much, sister. Sister, is there any other thing do you have any other thing to say to St. Louis? And like you said, I get what you meant when you said that not everybody can work in St. Louis, can work in Kano, especially St. Louis Kano, as sisters of St. Louis. And thank God that you are there. So it means anybody sent there will meet you, and you have to put the person through. But apart from that, do you have any other thing to say to St. Louis concerning interreligious dialogue and relationships?
It is an area that each one of us needs to pick interest in. Because we run schools, because we run hospitals, and people who come to us are not just Christians. People come to us from different faith backgrounds. The way the world is going into, we need to be sensitive and respectful of everybody, regardless of the faith they practice. And so even if it is just for that, we need to get the basics of what are the others saying in their faith, so that when we meet with them, we show them that respect, and and also because we have a motto that wants to bring in everything. We have to be the one to take the initiative of reaching out to others and making them feel welcome, making them feel accepted, making them feel that they matter. So I think it is some religious dialogue or understanding other religious background is something that as sisters of St. Louis, we need to pay attention to. And if there's a cause somewhere that people can do, that we should be encouraged to do it.
Thank you very much, sister. Thank you for that advice.
You're welcome, sister.
Thank you, sister. Sister, I'm grateful for this interview. I'm grateful to you for granting this interview. Thank you very much, sister. God bless you.
You're welcome, sister. Thank you very much.